The Exploding Mass Defect, Microscopic Evidence Rewriting Modern Physics, is a recently published book by Joseph George that proposes a radical reinterpretation of the mass defect in nuclear reactions and its implications for fundamental physics. Here's a breakdown of what the book is about. Core Argument and Hypothesis, EMDH. Challenging conventional wisdom. The book begins by questioning the standard explanation of mass defect, where the missing mass in nuclear reactions, like fission or fusion, is converted directly into energy according to Einstein's E=mc². The Exploding Mass Defect Hypothesis, EMDH, Joseph George proposes that instead of converting to abstract energy, this missing mass undergoes an explosive transformation into a new, space-filling form of matter. Microscopic Big Bangs. According to EMDH, each nuclear reaction event acts like a tiny, localized, micro-explosion, where this newly formed matter physically expands and imparts kinetic energy to the nuclear fragments. It's likened to a microscopic Big Bang occurring within the nucleus. Empirical evidence. Focus on spent nuclear fuel. The book's groundbreaking aspect lies in its emphasis on microscopic electron images of spent nuclear fuel. Advanced microscopy. Using techniques like Transmission Electron Microscopy, TEM, and Scanning Electron Microscopy, SEM, George presents high-resolution imagery revealing consistent and patterned microstructural anomalies in the spent fuel. Observed anomalies. These anomalies include radial microcracks, amorphous zones, distinct deformation zones. Interpreting the evidence, George argues that these features are not random byproducts of radiation damage but rather the striking physical fingerprints of the explosive process described by EMDH, indicating a hidden and energetic phenomenon long overlooked by mainstream science. Far-reaching implications for modern physics. Reinterpreting special relativity. The EMDH offers an alternative perspective on relativistic effects like mass increase with velocity and length contraction, suggesting they might be consequences of this space-filling matter rather than solely due to space-time curvature. Gravitational lensing and cosmic expansion. The book ventures into reinterpreting these astrophysical phenomena through the lens of this explosive matter creation mechanism. Dark energy. EMDH may even offer a new way to understand the mysterious concept of dark energy, suggesting it could be related to this newly hypothesized space-filling matter. Dynamic universe. The overall implication is that mass, matter, and the structure of the universe itself might be far more dynamic and interconnected than previously imagined. Book style and audience. Accessible yet rigorous. The book aims to be both accessible to a broad audience, including curious readers, while being rigorously argued to appeal to nuclear scientists and physicists. Richly illustrated. It features high-resolution microscopy images to support its claims. Testable models. George emphasizes that his hypothesis offers falsifiable predictions and a theoretical framework rooted in empirical observation. The core argument and hypothesis, EMDH, of Joseph George's The Exploding Mass Defect, is a radical departure from the conventional understanding of nuclear physics, particularly regarding the phenomenon of mass defect. Here's an elaboration on the key tenets of EMDH. 1. Challenging the E=mc² interpretation of mass defect. Conventional view. In standard nuclear physics, when a nucleus forms from its constituent protons and neutrons, its total mass is slightly less than the sum of the individual masses of those nucleons. This missing mass is known as the mass defect, and it's traditionally understood to be converted directly into energy, released as binding energy, according to Einstein's famous equation, E=mc². This energy is then carried away by photons, gamma rays, or the kinetic energy of emitted particles. EMDH's departure. Joseph George argues that this conventional interpretation, while empirically successful in terms of energy accounting, is fundamentally incomplete and potentially misleading in its physical description. He proposes that the missing mass isn't merely converted into an abstract form of energy, but rather undergoes a physical transformation into a new, tangible form of matter. 2. The explosive transformation into space-filling matter. A new form of matter. The central tenet of EMDH is that the mass defect in nuclear reactions, like fission or fusion, is not just lost as energy. Instead, it explosively transforms into a previously unrecognized form of matter, which George terms space-filling matter, or an ultra-fine medium. Microscopic Big Bangs. Each nuclear reaction, according to EMDH, becomes a localized, microscopic explosion. Imagine a miniature Big Bang occurring within the nucleus. The missing mass doesn't just disappear. It expands volumetrically into this new, pervasive matter, imparting kinetic energy. This explosively created space-filling matter is hypothesized to be the direct physical mechanism that imparts kinetic energy to the nuclear fragments. Instead of fragments simply recoiling from an abstract energy release, they are physically propelled outward by the expansion of this newly formed matter. It's like a tiny, powerful burst pushing the reaction products away from the core. 3. Physical manifestation and observability. Beyond abstraction. Unlike the conventional E=mc² interpretation, which can be seen as an energy balance equation, EMDH posits a concrete, physical process for the mass defect. This new matter, while ultra-fine, is considered to have physical properties and effects. The fingerprints in spent nuclear fuel. This is where the empirical evidence comes in. George argues that the microstructural anomalies observed in spent nuclear fuel, radial microcracks, amorphous zones, deformation patterns, are not random byproducts of radiation damage, but rather the direct, observable physical fingerprints of these microscopic explosions and the resulting expansion of space-filling matter. These patterns are too widespread and consistent to be dismissed as mere damage. 4. Implications for kinetic energy distribution. Alternative to simple recoil. The traditional model explains the kinetic energy of fission fragments as a result of their electrostatic repulsion and the conservation of momentum after the energy release. EMDH offers an alternative. The fragments gain kinetic energy because they are being actively pushed and accelerated by the expanding, space-filling matter created by the mass defect itself. This suggests a more dynamic and less abstract mechanism for energy distribution. In essence, EMDH shifts the focus from an abstract energy conversion, E=mc², to a concrete, explosive transformation of mass into a new, pervasive form of matter that actively influences the dynamics of nuclear reactions and potentially the fabric of spacetime itself. It's a hypothesis that aims to provide a more tangible, physically descriptive mechanism for one of the most fundamental processes in physics. The empirical evidence presented in The Exploding Mass Defect is central to Joseph George's argument, as it forms the observational foundation for his radical hypothesis. Unlike many theoretical physics proposals that begin with mathematical frameworks, George's work starts with what he claims are direct visual observations. Here's an elaboration on the empirical evidence. 1. Focus on spent nuclear fuel. The primary source of empirical evidence comes from the microscopic examination of spent nuclear fuel. This is crucial because spent fuel is the remnant of countless nuclear fission reactions, making it a fossil record of these processes. Conventional analysis of spent fuel primarily focuses on material degradation, radiation damage, and isotopic composition for waste management and reprocessing. George, however, looks for something fundamentally different. 2. Advanced microscopy techniques. To observe these minute structures, George utilizes advanced electron microscopy techniques. Specifically, the book highlights the use of Transmission Electron Microscopy, TEM. TEM allows for very high-resolution imaging of the internal structure of materials, including atomic scale features, by transmitting an electron beam through a very thin sample. This is ideal for examining internal defects and microstructures. Scanning Electron Microscopy, SEM. SEM provides high-resolution images of the surface topography of a sample by scanning it with a focused electron beam. While TEM provides internal details, SEM can reveal surface features and overall morphology. These techniques allow for magnification levels far beyond what is possible with optical microscopes, revealing structures previously unobservable or misinterpreted. 3. Observed microstructural anomalies. George claims that the electron microscopy images consistently reveal specific, recurring, and patterned microstructural anomalies within the spent nuclear fuel. These are not random defects but rather exhibit distinct characteristics. Radial microcracks. These are cracks that appear to radiate outwards from a central point, suggesting an outward explosive force. Their radial pattern is key to George's interpretation. Amorphous zones. These are regions within the crystalline structure that have lost their regular atomic arrangement, becoming disordered or glassy. George suggests these are areas where the explosive transformation of mass defect into space-filling matter has occurred, disrupting the original structure. Distinct deformation zones. These are areas where the material has undergone physical distortion or strain, again indicating a forceful event within the material. The crucial aspect of these observations, according to George, is their widespread nature and consistent patterning. He argues that if these were merely random byproducts of general radiation damage, they would not exhibit such consistent and organized structures. 4. Interpretation as physical fingerprints. George interprets these observed anomalies not as mere damage, but as the striking physical fingerprints of the explosive process described by the exploding mass defect hypothesis, EMDH. He posits that these microstructural scars are the direct physical evidence of the volumetric expansion of the newly created space-filling matter during nuclear reactions. The radial cracks, for example, are presented as direct evidence of matter expanding outwards from a central point within the nucleus, pushing the surrounding material. The amorphous zones could be where this new matter temporarily disrupted the crystalline lattice. 5. Challenging conventional explanations. By presenting this visual evidence, George directly challenges the conventional view that such features are simply the result of generic radiation damage or thermal stresses within the reactor environment. He suggests that these specific patterns point to a more fundamental, active process occurring at the moment of mass defect transformation. In summary, the empirical evidence in the exploding mass defect hinges on the visual proof obtained through high-resolution electron microscopy of spent nuclear fuel. George claims these images reveal consistent and patterned microstructural anomalies that are best explained not by conventional radiation damage models, but by the physical, explosive transformation of mass defect into a new, expanding form of matter. This visual data serves as the bedrock upon which his entire reinterpretation of nuclear physics is built. Joseph George's The Exploding Mass Defect doesn't just offer an alternative explanation for the mass defect in nuclear reactions. It claims to unravel a deeper, more fundamental mechanism that has profound and far-reaching implications across